Hey guys, what's up? I'm Courtney Odom. This is my live looping machine, Mega Maggie, and she sits inside of a red wagon body. Inside there is a power strip, which has a little bit of an enhanced grounding element to it, and a cloud lifter. So a cloud lifter is preamplifier for a microphone, and I use dynamic microphones, so I always like to preamplify it. So attached to that, I've got my Zoom LiveTrak L6 mixer. And moving into that mixer, I've got the RC505, Boss RC505 loop station, my Novation Circuit Tracks, Roland SP-404MKII, an Arturia Microfreak, and a Hologram Microcosm Pedal. Oh, as well as a Sans amp, DI box, and a Berry Banjo bass. So that's my setup. This is a Super 55 dynamic microphone from Shure. And like I said, that's going through a cloud lifter. And then the way that that setup is happening is that from the cloud lifter, it's moving into channel 1 on my mixer. I've got the phantom power on to power the cloud lifter. And then the second thing is my 505 loop station, which is also the tempo, master tempo. After that is the SP-404, and then the circuit tracks. Then we've got my Arturia Microfreak, and on channel 6, I've got the Microcosm. So while the LiveTrak L6 gives me two options for two aux channels, and then in the first aux channel, I send that into the input of the RC505. And usually I'm just sending vocals. That's pretty common. But I do like to send whatever I want. If I've got something going on the microcosm pedal, for me, it works best. It does have a looper, and the looper is cool. Sync-wise, with my setup, it works best if it's looped into the 505, and I can also affect it in different ways. I can use the microcosm loop to loop something else actually in time, and then if I fall in love with that loop, I can bring it over here. There's a lot of creative potential when I've got things moving through the aux channels. So I've got this 1/4 inch to XLR jumpers cable going in, and it works really, really well. And then in line 2, in the line input, I have the Sans amp going in to that for the 505. As far as the SP, I don't actually have anything running into the SP currently. Sometimes that's different. I do like to use the vocal effects on the SP, but right now I have it as playing sample chops and playing affected percussive and drum loops. The SP after that, I've got the circuit tracks. The circuit tracks gets aux synth number 2. And that's because it has a great side chain effect. So I've been loving to do drums that build and minimal drums on the circuit tracks. And I really enjoy that side chaining element. I brought it back into my system because of the way that it works and the way that it flows and keeps the music moving. Things that were limiting about it that I am still working with is that I feel like it's definitely more geared toward an electronic music, which is synth heavy, and like that's not necessarily what I do. It's kind of more sample heavy, more like hip hop vibe. But the circuit tracks is amazing, and it can be for all the genres. And I just didn't realize that until I opened up the potential in my own self. And then I realized that this tool I have is like so functional, and I'm not even using it. But I'm glad that I brought it back. I think also I just needed to understand some of these other pieces of equipment that I'd integrated before I could really take advantage of the circuit tracks, since what was limiting about that equipment I've now compensated for with basically the Microfreak. But the Microfreak is so complicated and so complex, it's taken me a really long time to just wrap my mind around that beast. One thing that helped me, so that is actually the next thing in the lineup up here on the Zoom LiveTrak is the Microfreak, and the Microfreak is incredible. I love it for all of its, I mainly use it for melodic content and sub basses since I have a bass that I play that works for like mid-range bass. Um, it's one that I love combining with the Hologram Microcosm Pedal, which is on line 6. So the Microcosm Pedal really gives it atmospheric vibe, but there's so much you can do with it. And sometimes I do like to take aux 2 and send it to the Microcosm Pedal, but I find less is more with that. It does so much with so little that I'm honing it in mainly for the Microfreak. Now, as far as my MIDI clock, I've got everything starting with the 505 and it moves into the circuit tracks. And then the circuit tracks branches out and gives its out to the Arturia Microfreak because I'm controlling the Arturia Microfreak through the circuit tracks on the MIDI 1. So I'm sending that out and then the through is going to the SP-404 and I do not, oh, and then from the Arturia Microfreak out to the Microcosm pedal. So that's where the tempo is going. I'm not sending it to the Zoom, although I could have sent it to the Zoom. I could just go out of the SP and send it through the through signal to the Zoom if I really wanted to. But right now, it's not necessary. So this is an incredible machine in its own right. I use the Zoom as a mixer. I love the compressor. It works extremely well. And I love the reverb effect. It has a hall reverb effect that I can add little amounts to everything and get that nice blended sound. But as far as what I do on each piece of equipment is a lot of vocal and mostly bass on this piece of equipment. However, I like to get really creative with it and I can throw anything in it that I want. Like I said, I'm doing mainly melodic or sampled chop samples and drum loops on this piece of equipment, as well as oftentimes I will find a way to move a microphone in. Arturia Microfreak. SansAmp is an incredible bass DI, and it connects really well with my bass. This has such a good sound. I live for it, I let it come on in. I love it. Oh yeah, I also am in a country western band with my husband, and we're C&D, country music, so if you like that kind of music, you should check us out. Yeah, I love this setup. It's taken me a long time to get here, but everything's moving and grooving. And like I said, my latest incorporation is Circuit Tracks. And because of that incorporation, it's caused everything else to feel like I have to give it a one over. And because of its incorporation, it's changed everything slightly. But it's a fun thing about this is, I may do things differently, but I feel like it's a setup that is clean enough to where I can finally share it. So that's what I'm up to. That's my setup.